What's up, YouTube? It's Dubk Dad. North American World Championship qualifier is upon us. I want to spend the next couple of days talking about the decks I feel that are relevant and how those eight, as you can see here, how those eight relevant decks match up against each other. Now, I know that there's probably some fringe decks you guys are like, well, what about Quacky Fist and my ice bears, they can take it this year. Okay, these are the decks that we see here that are on everyone's radar. Okay, these are the ones we're talking about because it would take a year to go over all the other little decks, Inzector artifacts and Constellar artifacts and Evil Swarm artifacts, if that could even possibly be a thing. You know, we're talking about these decks. Okay, these are the relevant decks, undeniably going into nationals. These are the decks that other players who have who have had consistent tops at other large scale events. These are the decks that they're going to be prepared for, or that they'll be playing. So we'll start. We'll name them off. We have the Dragon Rulers, Sylvans, Mermails, Boojins, Girgia, Artifact, Spellbooks, and Lightsworn. Now, all these, of course, include all their different variants. Gear can be Gear Hands, Pure Gear Karkuri, Artifact can be Hat, just pure artifacts. Of course, your insect artifacts or your stellar artifacts, whatever. And then Lightsworn, of course, can definitely include the Lightsworn ruler. But basically the game plan is the same with all these decks where you have a different variant. Playing the key components of the cards are what people are playing around, and they pretty much determine or affect the matchup. So part one today, we're gonna pick roll a dice, eight-sided dice. Talk about Girgia. Uh, Girgia, their matchup going against these other seven decks. Traditionally, Girgia has not had a problem with Bujin. Traditionally, they don't have a problem with artifacts. The problems they're going to be facing is mermails with their ability to pop armor with no effort through marksman. Sylvans, their ability to pop armor with very little effort with martial leaf. Spellbooks for banishing the armor's return. And then light sworns with just random ass JD drops. So that means that Gary is going to have to depend on their game two floodgates, hoping that those other decks brick or that they just draw amazingly well compared to their opponents' mediocre to meh, type hands. And what's so sad about it, about Girgiz, is even their best hands don't always compare to like a mediocre hand of like say mermails of lights or lightsworn, just because they can just drop so many different threats and you only have so many traps you can set, while the monsters that fall from the lightsworn player hand or graveyard essentially are free or become free over time, or easily recurable, so to speak. So that's going to be really hard for the Gear players and Nats to overcome in these matchups. I don't think that they'll have a extremely hard time with Sylvan's post side decking. People who watch my dual network know that I really like Sylvan's, but that deck is extremely prone to breaking. You have to draw so well to get past the Gear players setup. One false move and all your combos are for naught. And game two and three, when those floodgates come, it's so hard to hit your answers to the floodgates, because when you excavate with your Sylvan effects, any spell and traps, whether it be MST or maybe a decree, if you excavate them, they go to the bottom of the deck. So you have to depend on shuffling your deck in order to have a chance of drawing those anti floodgate cards again. It's so frustrating as a Sylvan player. Since we have some time, we'll talk about Boojins next. Boojin, they pretty much have a hard time all around, and I like Boojins. And playing that deck is is like you have masochists to play that deck, because you know that once you summon Yamato, it's like all the cannons are just aimed at his ass, and simple floodgates, too many big monsters, all kind of things can unseat him. And you have to, when you're going against these other seven decks, it's imperative that you see Yamato soon, and that you get your graveyard set up and your relics set up and your game plan set up, so you don't lose. Italy. And then come game two, some of these other decks can side really crazy floodgates against you. Of course, Hat and Gear run like 20 traps. Mermills can make Abyss Dweller at the drop of a hat. They can side Light Imprisoning Mirror. They can side Imperial Iron Wall, all of which pretty much screw you over, screw the Bujin player over if they don't have the out. Luckily, I want to give a shout out to my friend Telvin and Bhupinder Pure Wall. I probably screwed his name up, but thanks to those guys, they turned me on to Photon Thrasher. People are, I don't. I even turned on my nephew, Mega Capital G, to the Photon Thrasher build. He wasn't a believer. I always thought that the Bujins needed more, but just the simple inclusion of Photon Thrasher gives you the ability to, if you're going second, just exciting the shit out of your opponent's field. Because a lot of times, you're playing Bujins, I can set everything. It's gonna take you 3 or 4 turns to set up, and next thing you know, you drop an exciting on their ass, and then you soul charge, get your motto online, and just plays just start rolling. A lot of players aren't prepared for that. They're just thinking Bujin is the same old Coliseum and Decree. We're not getting OTK. This game's hardly going to go any time because your model's just going to be sitting there. And I'm here to tell you that these new builds coming out, that simply just isn't the case anymore. So going into this event, I expect to see Thrasher builds doing well. The non-Thrasher builds, I expect to see maybe 1 or 2 top, just because I feel that they'll draw the hands they need and they'll get the right setup. I just feel that with the soul charges and the speed of all these other decks, playing duality, hoping to hit something while your opponent has 4 big ass monsters on the field threatening game next turn. Unless you can duality in a dark hole and your opponent's field doesn't include monsters such as Felgrand and Stardust Spark, you know, Draco Sack, Draco Sack, Draco Sack, Draco Sack. Duality into pop into Dark Hole is not going to help you as a Bujin player. You have to adapt. Instead of grinding out those wins, you know, change up the build, get those easier wins, set your deck up for a real win condition. And I talked about Bujin's real win condition in my Bujingi Turbo deck list. So you can just look that up. Dubk Dad 1, Bujin Turbo. That deck list will come up. But yeah, that's what I feel that Bujins have to do well at this event. So yeah, hit me up. Hit up my channel tomorrow. Then we'll talk about 2 more decks, and this will go all the way till Friday. And then maybe by then, after talking to some people, I'll give a prediction on what the top 16 will look like. You know, in terms, I'm sorry, the top 32 will look like in terms of deck breakdown. Because I've really been thinking about, how many different decks will place in the top spot. What decks will make the top 16, top 8, top 4, which deck will finally win it, and be kind of interested to see. All right, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Steph K Dad, and I'm out.